Hey everybody, how's it going? This is another casual commander deck tech featuring Zimone Mystery Unraveler. Now, this is actually kind of a part two to the unboxing video that I did. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a upgrade video. So if you bought the Jump Scare Duskmourn precon and you're looking for one of the many different upgrade paths to the deck, I'm going to be showing you what one version of an upgraded deck could be like. Now, keep in mind this is a casual commander deck. So there's not going to be any Soul Ring. There's no Fierce Guardianship. There's no, Force of Will or anything like that that might be a little bit too, competitive. We're keeping it casual here. My casual play group likes to have a bit of a ban list. So, we're going to be adhering to that. So what does this deck do? So Zimone, she's 4 mana, blue-green. She says, whenever a land you control enters, manifest Dread. If this is the first time this ability is resolved this turn, otherwise, you can turn a permanent you control face up. And of course, to manifest Dread, you're going to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one on the battlefield, and it's a 2/2, sort of like a morph creature, and then the other one goes into your graveyard. And then you can turn it up for its mana cost if it is a creature card. Now, so how are we going to build this deck? There's a lot of different things you could do. So what we're doing is we're going to really take advantage of the landfall ability and try and get some big stuff into play. So that's kind of what we're going with. And we're going to be taking the deck card by card here, explaining each card choice. And, sound off in the comments if you think there's a card that you think would be good in the deck. But let's just start off with the only 1 mana card that I'm featuring in the deck, which is called Rapid Hybridization. Just 1 blue mana to destroy target creature, and then they get a 3/3 frog token. Pretty good removal spell. Very efficient. We're in blue-green, so our removal options aren't the greatest. So we want that nice 1 mana removal, and most of the time we're not going to really care about the 3/3. Going up to the 2 drops, we've got Druid class. We got the foil here. 2 mana, it's a class, so you can level it up. And on level 1, it says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Pretty nice. And then level 2, it says you can play an additional land each turn. And when it becomes level 3, you can animate a land. Mostly, you just want to get this to level 2 so that you can play an additional land each turn, so that you can get both of the modes on Zimone pretty early. So once you're playing a bunch of lands, getting that trigger over and over again, gaining the life, it's a pretty good card for the deck. Next up, we got our first actual morph creature. Now, some of the creatures in the deck are actual morph creatures because if they're face down and then you turn them up with Zimone's ability, you still get the is turned face up benefit. So Dead Protector, 2 mana. It's got Mega Morph, which is basically just morph with a 1/1 counter. And it says when it's turned face up, you can return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is kind of like our Eternal Witness. It's going to be pretty easy to turn this thing face up and get a card back. And it's got a little bit of evasion. It's got Mega Morph. So, you don't need to use Zimone's ability to turn it face up. Either way, you're going to get that card back from your graveyard. So pretty sweet card for the deck. Next up, we got Trail of Mystery. 2 mana enchantment. Doesn't do anything on its own, unfortunately, but whenever a face-down creature enters under our control, we're going to get a basic land card, put it in our hand. Pretty nice. And then whenever a permanent is faced up under our control, if it's a creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So what's really cool about this is you play a land, you get a face-down 2/2, and then you go get another land. And if you have something like Druid's Class on the board, that makes it so that you can just kind of pump through the landfall triggers with Zimone. So Trail of Mystery, pretty sweet card for the deck. One of many land ramp cards. We don't run any artifact ramp because or creature ramp, all of our ramp wants to be land so that we can get the ability with Zimone. So first thing, Farseek. You know what that one does. Another landfall creature here. We got Springheart Nantuko. Now, this is a weird one because you can equip it as an aura to a creature. And basically, whenever a land enters, you're either going to get a 1/1 or you're going to pay 2 if it's equipped to something and get a copy of that instead. So really sweet. We can really take good use of this card with all of our landfall shenanigans. So really sweet card for the deck. Another 2 mana card, Reality Shift. Exile target creature as controller manifests the top card of their deck. Again, just blue-green doesn't have a whole ton of creature removal, so we'll take what we can get. Another 2 mana card, not really 2 mana though. It's Cyclonic Rift. Return target not only a permanent you control its owner's hand, but mostly because we're a ramp deck, we're going to be overloading it for 7. And once you do that, it's pretty good. Next up, we got Rampant Growth, just 2 mana. Go get a basic land. Really helps us with all of our landfall shenanigans. Swiftfoot Boots, just 2 mana, hexproof and haste, helps keep our general around so that our deck can keep functioning correctly. Sakura Tribe Elder got the funny white border here. Kind of just the same thing as Rampant Growth. Again, we want to run a lot of land so that we can, play land from our hand and then use one of these abilities to get that second landfall trigger. 2 mana, Arcane Denial. Good counterspell. Counters a spell. They get to draw 2 cards. You get to draw 1 card. Nice casual counterspell for Commander if you're not running all the free counters. New card, Growing Dread. 2 mana enchantment with Flash. When it enters, you get to manifest Dread, and then whenever you turn a permanent face up, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. So, nice manifest Dread for 2 mana. That's not a bad rate. It has Flash, which is pretty cool. And, you're going to get that static bonus, putting some 1/1 counters on stuff. Not a bad card for the deck. 2 mana, instant, Growth Spiral. Draw a card, put a land into play from your hand. Really cool new art on this card. I talked about this in the unboxing video that I did, but I really like that art. So, really good card for the deck. Definitely want to run that. Explore, kind of similar to Growth Spiral, but instead you're going to play an additional land this turn. You can draw a card. So, a little bit different, a little bit the same sort of effect as Growth Spiral. 2 mana, Counterspell. This is a classic. We're not running a whole ton of counterspells. So, we are also running Counterspell and Void Slime. Counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. Nice 3 mana counterspell. 3 mana counters aren't the best, but this can do a lot of funny stuff in our colors. So, why not run it? Next up, we got Corrosive Grip. 3 mana instant, split second. Of course, destroy target artifact and enchantment. Good card for the deck. Some 3 mana ramp here, Roiling Regrowth. Unlike Harrow, which we also run, this one you don't have to pay a cost of sacrificing a land. It's only if it resolves, so if it gets countered, it's not as bad. But if it resolves, we get to sack a land and search our deck for 2 basic land cards. So we're going to be able to get both of Zimone's abilities in one turn. Kodama's Reach, 2 basic land cards. Put 1 in the battlefield tapped, 1 in the hand. You know what this card does probably. Basically the same thing as Cultivate. Really helps us get our general online. Tireless Provisioner. Landfall, we get to make treasures or food. A lot of times we're going to be making those treasures. But, don't scoff at the food tokens either if you're running out of life. Pretty good. Tireless Tracker, kind of best bros with Tireless Provisioner. Tireless Tracker, whenever a land enters the battlefield, we're going to make a clue token. Really sweet. Whenever we sacrifice a clue, we're going to put a 1/1 counter on this. We're going to be making tons of clues with this, drawing some cards. That's always going to be a good thing for our blue-green deck to do. Next up, we got Beast Within. 3 mana, destroy target permanent. Again, we're in blue-green, so we want to run Universal Removal, and Beast Within is certainly a good one. Really like this art for Beast Within. Pretty super creepy. Next up, got another new card, Glitch Interpreter, 3 mana. When it enters, if we control no face-down permanents, we will return him into our hand and manifest Dread. And then whenever one or more colorless creatures we control deals combat damage to a player, we're going to get to draw a card. So kind of like a nice little Toski, Coastal Piracy type effect. Also helps us get our Manifest Dread going. Pretty nice card for the deck. Next up, one of my favorite cards. This actually came in the precon, but this was one of my favorite cards ever. 3 mana, 3/3, Death Touch, Death Mist Raptor. I love this card. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you get to return this from your graveyard to the battlefield face up or face down. So sweet card. I used to play the hell out of this card when it was in Standard, and I actually took a break from Magic for about 1.5 years, and then this card came out, and it made me so happy that I wanted to make a deck with it, and I did, and it got me back into Magic, and here we are. So, again, I mentioned this card, Harrow, instant, sacrifice a land. Now, that is part of the cost. This is like a really old printing. I think it's from Tempest. But, basically the same thing as the other one we talked about. What was it called? Roiling Regrowth. Basically the same card, except this one is slightly worse because you have to pay a cost of sacking a land. So if it gets countered, you're going to feel really bad. But it does help with our general a lot. Next up, we got 3 mana, Scroll of Fate. Tap it to manifest a card in our hand. This is great because if our big, stupid creatures get stuck on our hand, we can manifest them with this, and we're going to feel pretty good about that. We got Cultivate, just another edition of Kodama's Reach. And just Restoration, very, very similar to Harrow and the other one. But this one, sack a land, and you get 2 basics. But if you control creature with power 4 or greater, we're going to get 3 basics. And keep in mind, the first one will get us a Manifest Dread, and then the other 2 can actually both flip face-up creatures. If you play like 50 lands in a turn, you're only going to get 1 Manifest Dread, but you're going to get to turn a bunch of things faced up. So keep that in mind. Next up, we got everybody's favorite card to hate, Scoot Swarm. Whenever you play a land, you're going to make a 1/1. And then if you control 6 or more lands, you're going to make a copy of this. And it gets really, really, really out of control really, really fast. I'm sure you guys have seen that in action. Next up, we got Kefnet the Mindful. Flying indestructible, can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more cards in hand. and then you could draw a card and bounce a land. So it's nice. You can rebuy your lands. This is also sweet because, if you could block with it and then flip it face up with Zimone's ability, and boom, it's a flying indestructible. So pretty sweet. Yep, cards we love to hate. Oko, Thief of Crowns, the beautiful, beautiful Oko himself. This is just a great card. +1, turn somebody's commander into an elk. I mean, what more can you really say about it? It's just a great removal spell for Simic, so you're obviously going to want to run that. Vannifar, Evolved Enigma. This is a 4-mana 3/4 at the beginning of combat on your turn, so you're going to want to play this first main. You can cloak a card from your hand, which is basically the same thing as Manifest, except it's got Ward 2, so it's actually just better than Manifest. Or you can put a +1/+1 counter on each colorless creature you control. So really sweet card. I could see this making a really, really sweet commander for like a blue-green colorless deck or something like that. I don't know if that would actually work, but it seems like it'd be really cool. Next up, we got Displacer Kitten. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to blink one non-land permanent, basically. You get to exile it and return it. So something that's really cool is if there's a face-down creature and you blink it, it actually re-enters face-up. That's a trick from the old standard Astral Slide deck from way back in the day. If you remember what that deck does, you should probably go see your doctor for a prostate exam because, it's about time on that point. But anyway, Displacer Kitten, yeah. So if let's say you cloak or manifest or whatever and 11 drop, then you blink it with this, you're just going to get to be able to get that card into play for free. So this is a sweet card for the deck. Very similar to Displacer Kitten in a lot of ways. We got Thassa, Deep Dwelling, Indestructible, 4-mana, 6/5. We're not really going to have Devotion online a lot of the time, but at the beginning of our end step, we get to blink one of our creatures, and then we can pay 4 mana to tap something, but we're probably not going to be doing that. So very similar to Displacer Kitten, helps us cheat on our abilities. We could play a face-down creature, blink it, boom, we have the full-price creature. Got a battle in here, Invasion of Zendikar, and its battlefield, 2 basic lands. So it's a lot like all of those other effects that we run. And if we want to swing at it, we can play this thing. And it's kind of funny because if we swing at it, it actually counts as a land drop because it's a land. So it's pretty funny. So kind of just has a lot of synergy with the deck. So, why not put a battle in there? Not every deck gets to run battles because, they kind of forgot that they even were a thing. 4-mana, Vastwood Surge, 2 basic lands, go put them in the battlefield tapped. And then if it's kicked, you get to put 2/1/1 counters on each creature you control. This is a just better version of a lot of things like Explosive Vegetation and stuff like that. The kicker ability on that's really nice in the late game. 4-mana, Wilderness Reclamation, really, really, really sweet card for this deck. We get to untap all of our lands on our end step. So obviously with Zimone, if we put something face down, we can manifest it and turn it face up at any time. So being able to cheat on the mana with Wilderness Reclamation is really, really, really sweet. Next up, we got Felonite Hermit, I think is how you say that. 4-mana, 1/1, unfortunately, but it gives all of our Saprolings +1/+1. And you can morph it for 5, but when it's turn face up, we can put 4 1/1 creature tokens into play. So really, really super cool card. We can turn it face up for 5 or 4 if we get it with Zimone, or we can just turn it face up with Zimone's ability. And either way we do that, we can get those 4 1/1s, which is awesome. Next up, we got 4-mana Erexmethes, is how I'm going to go with that pronunciation. Slumbering Isle, and it's battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. And if it has a slumber counter on it, it's still a land. And it's only a land. And whenever you cast a spell, you can remove a slumber counter from it, and it taps for 2. And it's a freaking 12/12. So really, it's kind of funny. You play this as a 4-mana land, basically. And just to get another land drop with Zimone, and eventually it becomes a big old 12/12. But it's kind of just like a 4-mana land drop thing. You're going to feel pretty good about doing that most of the time. Keru Spell Snatcher. When it's turned face up, we get to counter something, and we get to exile it, and we can cast it without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled. So, we can do that for 6 mana, which kind of sucks. Or we can do it for free with Zimone's ability, just in response to a spell, crack a fetch land or something, boom, we get to do that, and that feels really, really cool when you get to do that. Whisperwood Elemental, 5-mana, 4/4. At the beginning of your end step, you're going to manifest the top card of your deck, which is kind of like Manifest Dread, but without the selection ability. And then you can sacrifice this guy, and then you can give all of your face-up non-token creatures when this creature dies, manifest top card of your library. So a really sweet card. I remember when this guy was in Standard, and he was spoiled, and he was really expensive, but not so expensive anymore. Next up, 5-mana, enchantment, Primordial Mist. At the beginning of our end step, you can manifest the top card of your deck. And we can exile a face-down permanent we control face up and play it this turn, but normal timing rules still apply. So kind of a weird card. But like, let's say a permanent that we want to play, like Wilderness Reclamation, for example, gets stuck upside down. We can actually just exile it with this and play it. So even though, you know, we can't normally flip it up because it's not a creature, this can help us do that. And it's kind of cool. We get to manifest each turn. Not bad. I like that you get to manifest the first turn it comes out. That really helps it out. Conjurer's Closet, at the beginning of the end step, you can blink a creature. Again, this is mostly so that you can put things face down and then blink them. Keep in mind, like, let's say a Wilderness Reclamation or this Primordial Mist or whatever gets stuck face down. You can blink it with this, and now, boom, there it is. It's not a creature anymore. It's enchantment. That is how that works. Kind of goofy, but hey, you know, it's a good card for the deck. Next up, we got Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. I'm really glad that this came in the precon because this really makes the deck go burr for sure. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, which is going to be a lot most of the time. And all of our creatures, including this, that are non-token, are forests in addition to their other types. So, you know, each creature that we enter, including our manifest creatures, are going to count as lands. So it's really easy to make Zimone go crazy with this card. Super great card for the deck. Obviously, you know, you play a face-down morph creature with her ability, and then that's going to trigger her second ability. You can flip it face up right away. It's just really, really awesome. So that's a really sweet card for the deck. Tatooiova, Benthic Druid, Landfall. You know, nothing special here. Landfall, gain a life, draw a card. Just really helps us keep going through our deck. Really good card draw engine for the deck. Next up, we got Vengeful Creeper. This is a disguised creature, which is going to be a 2/2 with Ward 2 if we play it that way. And when it's turned face up by any means, we can destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. And it's a 5/5. So nice with Zimone's ability, you know, just gives us the free ability to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Kind of like our version of like, what's that card called? Reclamation Sage, something like that. Overlord of the Haunt Woods. I put this in the deck because I pulled one. It's really, really good, though. 5 mana, 6/5. It's got this weird impending thing where you can cast it for 3 and then remove counters from it. And then it'll eventually become a creature. Anyway, whenever it enters or attacks, we get to make a tapped colorless land named Everywhere that is every basic land type. So obviously, you know, just on its face, it's 3 mana. You get an extra land drop with Zimone. But if it's 5 mana, you get the extra land drop and you get to do one every turn. It's pretty stupid. And 5 mana in Commander is like basically nothing. So it's a really, really, really good card for the deck. Speaking of which, we got Vesuvian's Shapeshifter. This card is hella weird. When it enters the battlefield or is turned face up, you can choose another creature on the battlefield. And if we do, it becomes turned face down, but becomes a copy of that creature, except as at the beginning of your upkeep, you can turn this creature face down. So it's a super weird card. But we're going to come back to this card because it's kind of a combo with another card in our deck. Next up, we got Zendikar's Royal. Just a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever a land enters, we get to make 2/2 elementals. So helps us, go wide in our deck. Helps us with an alternate win condition. You know, we have so many land drops. Next up, we got Oversimplify. Really weird board wipe. 5 mana sorcery. Blue-green, which is weird colors for a board wipe. But anyway, exile all creatures. Each player creates a fractal with a bunch of woman counters on it equal to the total power of creatures they control that were exiled this way. So this one could kind of go south. It gives everybody a big old creature. But, you know, if it gives one person... like, let's say there's a control player and they only have one creature and everybody else gets a big creature. You guys can kind of gang up on them. It's kind of a weird card, but pretty interesting. And I like that it's a blue-green board wipe. So, you know, we're going to play that. 5 mana, they came from the pipes. Look at that art. Crazy. 5 mana enchantment. When it enters, you get to manifest dread twice, which is sweet. And whenever a face-down creature we control enters, we get to draw a card. So just like a 5 mana, 2 bodies, draw 2 cards, sort of like our version of like a Mole Drifter or something like that. Really goes nuts with this deck. I really, really like that card. Up to the 6 mana big boys. Now we got Rampaging Baloths, 6/6, trample for 6. Landfall. Whenever a land enters, we get to make a 4/4 beast creature token. I don't really have to explain why that's so good. Obviously, we've got a lot of lands coming into play. Next up, we got Curator Beastie, new card. 6 mana, 6/6, reach. Colorless creatures enter with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it, so that counts all of our manifest guys. And whenever it enters or attacks, we get to manifest dread. So really sweet card, 6 mana. For a 6/6 with a Manifest Dread, and it's going to instantly get 2 counters on it. Kind of like our version of maybe like a Grave Titan or something like that. Just really cool card for the deck. Multani Yabi Maya's Avatar, 6 mana. Reach Trample gets +1/+1 for each land we control and each land in our graveyard. And then we can, bounce 2 lands to our hand and return it to our graveyard to our hand. Really sweet card if we, swing in with it and then we bounce it or, not bounce it, but morph it at instant speed, turn it face up, whatever. Can really do a lot of damage out of nowhere. So a nice big guy for the deck. Next up, we got Temur War Shaman. 6 mana. When it enters, you manifest top card of your deck. So kind of similar to this card, Courier Beastie. But anyway, whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, you can have it fight target creature you don't control. So nice removal for the deck since we're going to be turning things face up a lot. Next up, we got AC, Tyrant of Gyre Strait. Not of the Gyre Strait. But anyway, 6 mana, 5/5. You can play an additional land on each of your turns. And whenever a land you control enters, you get to draw a card. So sweet draw engine for the deck. We can really take advantage of the additional land drop each turn. And obviously, each additional land that we play with Zimone is going to be really good. Next up, we got Brine Elemental. 6 mana, Elemental. Whenever it's turned face up, each opponent skips his or her untapped step. So I'm not really sure how to explain it, but these two cards basically combo together so that nobody gets an untapped step except for you. It used to be a deck back in Standard. I think it was called Pickles because Brine Pickles. Yeah. But I'm not really sure how to explain it. I haven't really run this specific combo in person. But I mean, I got foils of each card. I got to do it, right? It's kind of evil, but I got to do it. So maybe just Google how this combo works because I'm really not sure how to explain it. But basically, you get these two guys out and your opponents don't get an untapped step. Is more or less how it works. If somebody wants to sound off in the comments as to how that combo actually works, it does work. I don't really know how it works, but I know it does work. Jumping up to 9 mana, we got Artisan of Kozilek. When we cast this, we can return a creature from our graveyard to the battlefield, and it's got Annihilator 2, and it's a 10/9. So mostly we're not really worried about casting this. We're worried about putting it face down and then turning it face up and swinging with it to get that cheap Annihilator 2 cheesiness action. Very similarly, we've got 9 mana Inkwell Leviathan, Trample Island Lock Shroud, 7/11 for the 7/11 convenience store tech here. Same thing. We want to put it face down and then turn it face up. Also, Kozilek, 10 mana. Whenever we cast it, we get to draw 4 cards. It's got Annihilator 4 again. It's also when it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, we get to shuffle our graveyard into our deck. So it gives us some weird mill protection. With Zimone, we are kind of milling ourselves a little bit. But anyway, again, we don't run a ton of these guys, but we do want to run like 4 or 5 of these big fatties that we want to like put face down and then turn face up and swing. Also, we got Pathrazer of Ulamog, just a 9/9 for 11, Annihilator 3. Can't be blocked except for 3 more creatures. We got like Super Menace. So, there's like 4 of these big honkin' boys. And the biggest honkin'est boy of them all, World Spine Worm, 5 big honkin' boys. You could go all in on this if you really wanted to. And just play like 20 of these stupid things. But I feel like your deck would be really bad because they get stuck in your hand a lot. But anyway, this thing is a freaking 11 mana 15/15, and when it dies, you make 3 5/5s, and when it's put in the graveyard, you shuffle it in your deck. So more mill protection. We're not really going to be able to get milled out very easily in this deck. But anyway, you play 3, as a face-down creature with Zimone's ability, and then you hit him for 15, and it's hella funny. All right, let's get to the lands now. We've got a few MDFCs, not too many, because we need to run a bunch of basic lands. So we run Tangle Florahedron. Counting Ambush just for a little bit of extra removal. Good old 7 mana. It's a blue-green MDFC. When we cast it, if colorless was meant to cast it, you get some dudes. But mostly it's just a dude that we can play on the cheap with Zimone. Next up, and this is where the kind of, I obviously upgraded this precon kind of thing comes into play here. So we are running a butt ton of fetch lands, okay? So this deck comes with Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. You know what these do. Search your deck for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. They're okay. They're super cheap. You can find these on the ground. If you went to the Arby's parking lot, you could probably find a few copies of these. And they're good with Zimone because you can play them and then crack them and you get both the Zimone's landfall triggers in the same turn. But because this is not a budget deck, we've also got Fabled Passage, which does the same thing, but sometimes the basic land comes into play untapped. And we have a butt ton of fetch lands. We have Flooded Strand, Misty Rainforest, Windswept Heath, Verdant Catacombs, Wooded Foothills, and Polluted Delta. So I think, I could be wrong. No, we don't have a Scalding Tarn in here. And yeah, we don't have a Scalding Tarn, and we're missing the I think Scalding Tarn's the only one, because we can't run black red, we can't run black white, or the Boros one. Yeah, so besides Scalding Tarn, just because I don't have an extra one, I would put it in here if I did. We're running all these fetch lands. They're just so good with Zimone. If you don't have these, you could find more of these budget dual lands, but man, if you have these, they are just so good with Zimone. And I had a bunch of them laying around, so I put them in the deck. Next up, we got some lands that do stuff. We got Otawara, good bounce spell for the deck. Branch of Vitu-Ghazi. This one's kind of cute because when it's turned face up, you can get mana. Kind of funny. Reliquary Tower. And then we got a bunch of dual lands. We got Command Tower, Breeding Pool, Yavimaya, Hedge Maze, Rejuvenating Springs with the cool full art, Dreamroot Cascade, Waterlogged Grove, Tangled Islet, because you want to run as many good fetchable dual lands as you can. Spoilers, I don't have a Tropical Island in here because I don't own one of those. Hinterland Harbor. Civic Growth Chamber, kind of cute with this deck because, gives you extra land drops. And then we have a bunch of islands. Looks like we got 6 here. 6 islands. And 5 forests. So that's the deck. If you are looking to upgrade your Jump Scare Precon, this is definitely a good way to go, I think. Just the big landfall guy triggers. You got your Rampaging Baloth that can help you win the game. You got the big dudes that you can cheat into play. You got a lot of value in the deck. A little bit of removal, but not too much. Just, I think, a good upgrade path for the deck. So, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, concerns, criticisms, complaints about how I built the deck, or things you would include in your Zimone deck, please comment yours below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.